Greetings all, this is Hairy Nick and welcome back to FFG's webpage because we have another X-Wing reveal article. Yes, as I so very much hoped, we seem to have kicked up the schedule here and we're getting, at least for the time being, one of these each week. If this continues, we'll get a reveal article next week and a reveal article the next week after that. By the end of November, they'll all be revealed and hopefully we'll get a release by mid-December just before The Last Jedi comes out. That would be awesome. Please, FFG, make it happen. Apparently all of these items have already sort of started shipping, making it to distribution, so there's a very good chance that'll happen. Anyway, for today we have Coordinate Your Attack, the preview article for the Phantom 2 expansion. Let's scroll down and see what we have. Once again, we have this note just here denoting that Wave 12 and 13 will release together. Again, no information on when that's going to be, but hopefully mid-December. And here we have the spread. And what's cool about today's article is actually we have quite a lot revealed, which is a bit frustrating as the Scum player right after the Kimagila fighter. But that's okay. The only thing we don't have revealed today is the dial, and I think that's fair enough. Based on the points we're seeing on this ship and the abilities and the upgrades and all that kind of stuff, I'm guessing this is going to be a fairly mid-range dial. Nothing exciting. It's not going to have, I wouldn't think it would have 3 hards, for example, maybe just 2 hards and 3 softs, for example. A nice slow-rolling sort of shuttle-style ship. Remember, this is basically a Confederate personnel carrier, so it's not meant to be an insane fighter. Having said that, it's got some nice tricks up its sleeve, which we'll get to very soon. But first of all, let's go through all of these pilots. We'll go from left to right. So starting off with the lowest dude, AP5 Pilot Skill 1, no APT, cost 15 points. And also it's worth noting now what the actual stats of the ship are. 2 red dice, front and back because we have a rear firing arc. 2 green dice, 4 hull, 1 shield. Actions are Focus, Target Lock and Coordinate. And the upgrade bar consists of crew and astromech. AP5 reads, when you perform the coordinate action, after you choose a friendly ship and before it performs a free action, you may receive 2 stress tokens to remove 1 stress token from it, which is actually fantastic. That means you can pick a ship with a stress token and you can coordinate them a free action. That's very, very powerful. It also comes on a guy that's pilot skill 1, so that means if any of your, say, high pilot skill aces have stress on them after using, say, push the limits the previous turn, you can clear their stress and give them a free action, and then they're free to do whatever maneuver they want, potentially take another 2 actions from push the limit. It's really good action economy, and yeah, I know that this guy has to take 2 stress tokens, and that's possibly a bit painful sometimes, but this is the cheapest guy on the Phantom 2, and I just feel like that utility is fantastic. Previously on the old Phantom, the cheapest guy was Zeb Aurelius, and he has basically no utility. So this is very welcome. At the very least, even if you don't use this ability, the 15-point buy-in seems very reasonable. No longer is Zeb the cheapest guy on the Phantom. In fact, Zeb's actually included in this pack on the Phantom 2, and I don't think he'll ever see play. I think with AP5 in the mix, there's just no reason to ever play Zeb on the Phantom 2. So yeah, I'm just really happy with this ability. I think it's going to offer a lot of utility. It might be a bit hard to use sometimes, but if you're desperate, you'll definitely use it. The ability to take stress off your higher pilot skill dudes is very, very potent, and I'm very happy to see it here. So next in the spread, we have Zeb Aurelius. As I said before, I don't think this guy's going to see play. Pilot skill 3 for 16 points. When defending, you may cancel crit results before hit results. Not super relevant. It's more relevant arguably in this ship because it has more hull than the old Phantom. So it might come up, but it cost 1 more point than AP5, and I just think AP5 is way more relevant than Zeb now. So yeah, look, bottom line, I don't think this is going to see play. I don't see the point of it. So let's just move on. Next we have Ezra Bridger, and this again is the same ability as the old Ezra Bridger. 17 points, has an EPT for pilot skill 5. When defending, if you are stressed, you may change up to 2 of your eyeball results to evade results. Very powerful. Had lots of fun build around, especially with the old Phantom. And in this pack, we actually have a few more tools to make this work very efficiently. Now, there is the factor here that you may not be too comfortable stressing him out because you want to take your actions. That coordinate may be too potent for you here. And the problem is that the old Phantom may just be a better platform for Ezra Bridger. It has 3 red dice instead of 2. and it might be a better offensive ship. It might be a better brawler overall. So Ezra Bridger in the command module may not make as much sense. This guy is all about fighting and defending and that kind of stuff. But having said that, having the utility as an option is never a bad thing. And as I said, there is a really cool option in this pack to help improve that, and I'll get onto that soon. But I'm just not too sure. I just feel like the old Ezra is probably a bit better in the original Phantom. But in the comments, guys, if you have any ideas for make this work specifically better than the old Phantom, I'd like to hear it, because it's very interesting. It's worth noting that this guy can take the Astromech slot and the old one can't. And for that reason, we might see some utility that I just haven't thought about here. But it's very cool nonetheless. Alright, and finally the highest pilot skill. Fen Rao, pilot skill 9. He's finally on the Rebellion. He only joined them, about 6 months ago in the show? Pilot skill 9 costs 20 points with an EPT. When an enemy ship inside your firing arc at range 1 to 3 becomes the active ship during the combat phase, if you are not stressed, you may receive 1 stress token. If you do, that ship cannot spend tokens to modify its dice when attacking this round. Okay, so this is very interesting because when this was first revealed, and we could see it on the spread and read it ahead of time, we didn't need this high-res picture to really capitalize what's going on here. I thought, okay, this is fantastic for Fairship Rebels. And then, of course, we got the FAQ and Biggs is no longer an option. So we have another cool tool for that archetype, but we have arguably the most important tool in that archetype dropping out. So I guess it's a case of, is this going to help fix that archetype? Is the archetype going to be fine when Biggs only works once per game? I think it's doable, personally. I find with Fairship Rebels, if you can line up 1 round of shooting, and that's the round you say want Biggs to proc, you can really capitalize that over your opponent, and you can still get good use out of Biggs. And for that reason, I think looking at Fen Rao, it makes a lot of sense. If you can use Fen Rao's ability the same time you use Biggs' ability, you can get a nice wombo combo. And perhaps this was one of the reasons that Biggs got nerfed in the first place. They knew stuff like this was coming down the track, and they wanted to limit Biggs' power level, which had already gotten considerably out of hand, and basically say, okay, now that all these tools are available to Biggs, using him once per game actually makes him still reasonably competitive. I don't know, that might not be the case, I'm just spitballing here. But nonetheless, I really like what Fen Rao is doing here. I think alongside, say, Captain Rex and Lorik at the very least, this is going to be very, very powerful. There are certainly ships that just don't care about not being able to use their tokens on their attacks. But I think all in all, you're going to get more hits than misses with this ability. It's very powerful. And pilot skill 9 with an APT. This can take push the limits, get some real utility out of that coordinate action. It also has a nice trick with the Astromech slot, which I'm going to talk about later. But it could take a lot of different options with that Astromech and crew combo. There's a lot of cool things that are going on here, and I'm very curious to see what you guys think in terms of combos we can use with Fen Rao. Alright, back to the spread. Let's move left to right through all these upgrade cards. First of all, we have this little guy, the Courier Droid. It costs 0 points, it's a crew, and it's limited. And it is not faction specific. You would have thought this is a kind of a rebel kind of thing. But I guess not. I guess Scum and Empire can take it too. At the start of the Place Forces step, you may choose to treat your pilot skill as 0 or 8 until the end of the step. Okay, that's very interesting. I guess if you want to go pilot skill 0, you can force your opponent to set up opposite one of your ships. If you go pilot skill 8, you can set up after one of your opponent's ships. That's pretty cool. At the end of the day, I don't think it has a lot of utility, but it is a non-faction specific 0 cost crew, which means it becomes an auto add in a lot of builds that don't fill out its crew slot, and that's interesting, I guess. I mean, it's irrelevant if your pilot skill is 9 or above and you definitely don't want to deploy earlier rather than later. I can understand why in those instances this is not an auto add, but on the low pilot skill ships that you want to fly several of and you don't have points to burn on that crew, you could potentially make a lot of use out of this. You could deploy everything pilot skill 8, potentially deploy after your opponent's ships and get a bit of use out of it. I don't know. At the end of the day, it's a 0 cost card, so I can't be too critical of it. And certainly with the Phantom 2, it could prove very useful. Although the problem is the Phantom 2 wants to deploy next to all of its own ships. So I guess if you're flying alongside another ship, say with pilot skill 8 or 9, that could be very good because it means that you could take AP5. And AP5 deploys the same time as your quote-unquote ace, meaning that your opponent doesn't see AP5 sitting there in the battlefield, knowing that you must deploy everything right next to AP5. Okay, yeah, I can see that. I can see how that would help. If you've got no points to spend on the crew, that could be a very useful utility. It's very build-specific, but it's got a little cool trick in there, and I do like that. Alright, let's move on. This is the big one for me. This is Maul. Costs 3 points, scum only. Ignore this restriction if your squad contains Ezra Bridger. Makes perfect sense. Now, Lockie, hell of a pilot. Dude, if you're watching this, you called it, mate. That is exactly what you thought this card was going to say, so well done. When attacking, if you are not stressed, you may receive any number of stress tokens to re-roll that many attack dice. After performing an attack that hits, you may remove one of your stress tokens. Okay, first up, I just want to say I am disappointed because I'm a big fan of Clone Wars and Rebels. I'm a big fan of the Maul character in that. I was really hoping that the crew card for Darth Maul would have a bit more impact than this. It feels like this is just like a combo trick, but him unto himself, especially on the Scum faction, I don't know. I'm just a bit disappointed that this doesn't have a lot of splashy flavor that I was really hoping it had. I feel like on the Scum faction, Dengar is probably just better. Having said that, what gives me pause for thought here is the second part of Maul's text. After performing an attack that hits, you may remove one of your stress tokens. And that seriously gives me pause for thought. That makes me think, okay, what about that Boba Fett build, for example, that I love flying? He hates stress, but he is constantly hitting other ships every time he gets stuff in arc because it's such an offensive build. This could prove very potent. You can get a reroll on your attacks, not just at range 1, which Boba Fett can only do by himself, and you can combo that by removing the stress again, and negating any of the badness that comes out of that. The problem is there an argument just to take Dengar in that stage? I don't know. There's also the utility of Maul that if you never use the first part of his text, you can still stress yourself out and then use the second part of his text. You could say have a glitter stim on your ship, on say Boba Fett, get into range 1, pop glitter stim, do a big attack, hit your opponent, and then remove the stress you got from glitter stim, and that can be very potent. Giving a ship like the Fire Spray resistance to stress is very powerful. Indeed, it could be very powerful in a lot of other things. I like flying the Shadowcaster, for example, but I prefer flying Dengar on the Shadowcaster. Maybe this is a better option because with things like contraband cybernetics and glitter stim and all that kind of stuff we can stack onto it, we can negate the negative effects of getting all of that stress. We can get around it. And that's possibly very interesting. Do we say put this on a Trandoshan slaver alongside an inspiring recruit? So you can use 2 stress tokens to reroll 2 dice, hit the attack, and then take off the 2 stress tokens immediately, proccing off the back of inspiring recruit. And that's a combo that also works on the Rebels, by the way. That is not a scum-only combo. So that could go, say, on an Ozatut gunship as well. I don't know if that's what Ozatut gunships want to be doing, but it's definitely food for thought. When I first saw this, I thought, no, this is strictly worse than Dengar. But the fact of the matter is that second part of the text, being able to remove stress tokens whenever you hit an attack is very, very, very interesting. I'm still disappointed because I really felt like this was going to be a card that made me go, yes, this is awesome. This is something that's going to make me want to do massive build-arounds and it's going to punch my opponent in the face and do all this amazing damage. But as I said, it's a combo piece, and that's not really what I wanted Maul to be, so I'm a bit sad about that. I'm also sad that Maul's been introduced into the game not on his ship. I really wanted the Gauntlet Fighter in the game, and maybe the Gauntlet Fighter doesn't have a crew slot, that's why they introduced it on the Phantom instead. That makes sense, I guess. But, yeah, look, guys, in the comment section, my brain is racing. What do we combo Maul with? Alright, continuing on, we have the Chopper Astromech for 1 point. Action, discard one other equipped upgrade card to recover 1 shield. Now, this is interesting because all cards that say recover shield say, up to your maximum shield value. This does not. Does that mean that Chopper can push himself over the maximum shield value? I'm just going to quickly check the article. Yeah, it says in the article here, given enough time, Chopper could provide pilots like Ezra Bridger with as many as 4 extra shields. That says to me that Chopper can actually give you more shields than your ship's meant to take. That's interesting. What's interesting with this, and it's pointed out in the article right here in front of us, in this build here, is that if you have, say, quote-unquote junk upgrade cards, you can just burn them in order to increase the amount of shields your ship has. For example, this Y-Wing build here contains guidance chips. It has no utility for guidance chips, but guidance chips is free. Chuck it on, burn it to Chopper, and get some free shields. Excellent. We have, for example, bomb loadout and some bombs. Well, you may as well just burn bomb loadout. It's a free upgrade. Send it away, keep the bombs. Extra munitions. We know because of the FAQ, if you get rid of extra munitions, the ability still works. Those tokens on the bombs that you have don't go away and can still be used after extra munitions is gone. Say you don't want to fire in arc anymore. You want to be able to use dorsal turret 360. Burn BTL A4 Y-Wing. Why not? It's there. It's free. Get rid of it. It's a fire sale. Everything has to go. I will say that this 28-point Y-Wing might not be the best use of 28 points. It's still not arguably better than just taking, like, say, TLT and R2 Astromech, but it's an interesting build nonetheless. It's something that we haven't seen in the game before. This bizarre ability to just take these actions over and over again and recover shields. It's a very, very tanky Y-Wing, and I guess getting dorsal turret shots over and over and over again, especially with BTL A4, there's a lot of attack economy there, and it's just going to be so hard to shoot through the ship if it's taking an extra shield every single turn. This could be thoroughly annoying. It admittedly could be gimmicky and terrible. I mean, looking at this, voluntarily just burning all of your upgrades seems like a bad idea on the offset, but it could have its combos. I will say though that this is a perfect flavor match for Chopper. The idea that he's just throwing stuff out to repair ships. He's a very inefficient astromech. And it just reminds me, I can actually picture Chopper doing this in the Rebel show. I like it when they get a perfect flavor match for these upgrade cards, and that's very cool. Okay, moving on. And this is arguably the most interesting card we're going to see in this pack. This is the Flight Assist Astromech. Cost 1 point. It's an Astromech, obviously. You cannot attack ships outside your firing arc. After you execute a maneuver, if you do not overlap a ship or obstacle and there are no enemy ships inside your firing arc at range 1 to 3, you may perform a free boost or barrel roll action. Now, this, as pointed out in the article, is very, very good for the T65 X-Wing. I don't know if that's enough to say, quote-unquote, fix the T65 X-Wing. I don't think this is going to say get in the way of a fix pack or something like that. I think that's still coming down the track eventually. But I look at this and I think, yeah, that's really, really good. It really turns any X-Wing, T65 or T70, into really powerful headhunters. On the Phantom 2, it also has good utility because it also procs out the back using that rear firing arc. It's worth noting that because you have the rear firing arc, it's less likely to proc. It means you have to be missing everything with 2 massive firing arcs, and that can be difficult sometimes. But again, it's just great to have something that always guarantees that you have a shot. And I think it works nicely at both ends of the pilot skill spectrum. You could say take 4 of the Blue Squadron T70s with this and integrated Astromech. That could be pretty potent. Or you could put this on, say, a Poe Dameron. Poe Dameron is very likely to fly last, especially if you take the PS9 variant, and if he has nothing in his firing arc, you have the ability to boost or barrel roll. Now, granted, this boost or barrel roll cannot be used to arc dodge, at least not very effectively anyway, because you need to not have an enemy inside your firing arc, and if the enemy has you inside their firing arc, you're likely to have them inside your firing arc. But if you don't, say you're running away from them, that's also very good because you get to boost away for free and potentially push another range, or even get beyond range, which is awesome. For 1 point, I feel like this upgrade is very pushed, and that's actually a good thing. I think the X-Wings needed something like this. It kind of feels a bit like a BB-8, although it's cheaper and probably more applicable overall. BB-8's still awesome, don't get me wrong. I don't think this is going to replace BB-8, but this giving you the option to save 1 point and potentially giving you more utility in different situations is very powerful. I think it's a great addition to the Rebel faction, and I think it's going to see a lot of play. Alright, lastly, we have some replacement titles for the new Ghost and Phantom. Basically, this version of the Ghost is exactly the same as the old version of the Ghost, except instead of the old Phantom, you have the new Phantom. All the text is the same, except instead of Phantom, it says Phantom 2. Equip the Phantom 2 title card to a friendly Sheathpeed class shuttle and dock it to this ship. After you execute a maneuver, you may deploy it from your rear guides, and the Phantom 2, again, reads very similarly to the old Phantom, except with one major difference. While you are docked, the Ghost may perform a primary weapon attack from its special firing arc. Cool, that's the same as the old one. While you are docked, at the end of the activation phase, the Ghost may perform a free coordinate action. This is very interesting. Obviously, the old Phantom let the Ghost take a free attack at the end of the attack phase. And that was a great offensive powerhouse move. It meant you had to take a slightly more expensive Phantom, but this one gives its command center quote-unquote utility to the Ghost in that it can take coordinate actions, and that's very interesting. We're seeing a lot of combos these days with Kanan Jarrus alongside either Biggs Darklighter or Lorik. Now, given that the Biggs Darklighter card has been heavily nerfed, I think that's pretty much going to include Lorik from now on. And the question is, do we switch over to the new Phantom with that build? Do we coordinate so we can give Lorik another action? I'm not sure if we want to do that. I think we want to keep the more offensive version of that build going, but it's something to discuss, definitely something to think about. Because the new Phantom costs a little bit less than the old Phantom, you can squeeze some more points in that list, potentially get a Phantom that you actually might want to deploy, rather than just putting Zeb Orrelios in the old Phantom and going, okay, another TLT shot, that's all we're doing. It might actually offer some more versatility to that list, and I'm very curious to see if that works. It also gives us the option, because we're saving more points, to fly Kanan alongside, say, a more acey kind of ship. And Coordinate is fantastic alongside aces. We could do a Kanan and Poe Dameron build if we're able to sort of squeeze in enough points, for example. And that could have a lot of potential. I'm very interested to see what kind of builds we can do around that. In the end, this is giving the existing Ghost a lot more options, a lot of different flavors. It's not making it strictly better. It's just saying, okay, you can go in this direction or that direction, and both are valid, and both can suit the kind of build that you're going for. It's no longer just the generic, let's take the old Phantom, shoot twice the TLT, GG, good game. And I think that's just good for the game. Not just giving a faction ridiculously powerful options, but actually giving it different options that forces the player to choose, and not just make their list more powerful, but making it more versatile. And I think that's only a good thing for the game. And that is it for the Phantom 2. Looks fantastic, and yes, it looks like we're going to get weekly articles from now on. That means next week we should see the Resistance Bomber, and the week after that the TIE Silencer. Fingers crossed. Please, FFG, please get these done by the start of December. Please get these products out before The Last Jedi. It's going to help both for our hype levels and for your sales. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, like our Facebook page, and I will catch you later.